Lady from California is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Director, for coming here today. And actually, thank you for your response to my colleague from New York who asked you earlier about violent extremism. And you said that there is violent extreme ideology on both sides. And I think you actually alluded to that same statement yesterday in the Senate. So I too have some questions I'd like to ask you. These are not gotcha questions, and just deny, please, what you deem to be false. So Dylan Roof, who followed white supremacist propaganda, murdered 9 black parishioners in Charleston in 2015. Do you deny this?
I'm sorry. Dylan Ruth?
Roof?
Roof, can you give me some more information?
You're head of the FBI, you probably know this. If you don't know, that's fine.
You can give me a reminder, I've got a lot in front of me.
It was national news. Robert Bowers murdered 11 Jewish worshipers in Pittsburgh in 2018.
I do remember that.
And it was the deadliest anti-Semitic attack. So do you admit that that happened?
I'm not saying the other thing didn't happen, I'm just asking for a little information.
Patrick Cruces, who posted a manifesto about a Hispanic invasion, walked into a Walmart in El Paso, Texas in 2019 and began firing. He murdered 23 people that day, and the youngest was 15. Do you admit or deny that that happened?
I'll take your presentation as accurate.
All right, well, I have to say all of these cases have been adjudicated. As I said, they are not gotcha questions. These incidents were national news. And as director of the FBI, you have access to all of this information. So in 2022, Peyton Grendon walked into a supermarket in a black neighborhood in Buffalo, New York, and started shooting. He murdered 10 people that day. And on September 10th, your friend Charlie Kirk was assassinated. Tyler Robinson has been taken into custody and charged, but also on that day, Desmond Holley, a 16-year-old white male, shot and injured 2 students at a high school in Colorado before killing himself. And according to the Anti-Defamation League, he had a fascination with mass shootings and white supremacy. So do you admit to, deny these facts?
Those happened.
Okay. Your predecessor, former FBI Director Christopher Wray, said that one of the most dangerous concerns is that racially motivated violent extremism, especially white supremacists, has been the biggest chunk of our domestic terrorism cases and is responsible for the most lethal attacks over the last decade. Do you admit or deny, A, that he said this?
I'll let the record reflect that. Whatever he said was what he said.
All right, and do you agree?
That there is racially motivated crimes being committed in America, yes.
Yes, especially white supremacists, which is the biggest chunk of our domestic terrorism. I'm glad that you said this. So last week, President Trump was asked if there were extremists on both the left and the right. He was actually asked this by Fox and Friends, and his exact words were, "I'll tell you something that's going to get me in trouble, but I couldn't care less. The radicals on the right oftentimes are radical because they don't want to see crime. The radicals on the left are the problem, and they're vicious, and they're horrible, and they're politically savvy." Do you agree with the president?
I don't speak for the president speaks for himself.
Do you agree with the president?
On what matter?
On the question that I just asked, do you agree with his statement about the radical left?
That there's ideology that's driving violence on both sides? Yes, that's what he acknowledged.
No, he didn't. He didn't. Okay. But I'm glad that you're saying that and actually creating some separation between you and the president. And I'm glad that you are acknowledging that there is violent extremism on both sides. What's interesting is that the research arm of the Department of Justice, the National Institute of Justice, do you know what that is?
I'm familiar with them.
Okay, great. It is the research arm of the Department of Justice, and it published an article in 2024 devoted to domestic radicalization, violent extremism, and terrorism. I have it. It's interesting that it's no longer on the website. It has been scrubbed, but I ask these questions because what makes a strong, qualified director of any business, of any household, of the FBI, what makes a reputable prosecutor is not lapdog loyalty, but a commitment to the creed that evidence is agnostic and that the evidence will lead you to making the right decisions. And your job, no one's job is to like the data or the evidence, it is to collect it. That is how you gain trust. And Mr. Chair, I would like to enter into the record, if I may. White supremacist group stands by racist ideology with unanimous consent.
Without objection.
Dylan Roof, the radicalization of the alt-right and ritualized racial violence.
Without objection.
Thank you. Another article, how Robert Bowers went from conservative to white nationalist. I'd like to enter that into the record with me.
Without objection.
Patrick Cruces believed he was fulfilling Trump's wishes in El Paso attack, his attorneys said. I'd like to enter into the record.
Without objection.
Buffalo shooting, how far-right killers are radicalized online. I'd like to enter that into the record.
Without objection.
Evergreen high school shooters' online activity reveals fascination with mass shootings, white supremacy. I'd like to enter that into the record.
Without objection.
Murder and Extremism in the United States in 2024, a report by the Anti-Defamation League. I'd like to enter that into
Without
the record.
objection.
And the article, the report that was scrubbed from the DOJ just recently, National Institute of Justice Journal focusing on domestic radicalization, violent extremism, and terrorism. I'd like to enter that into the record.
Without objection.
And lastly, the libertarian think tank Cato and their analysis on violent extremism and the right rising in extremist acts. I'd like to enter that into the record.
Without objection.
Thank you, and I yield back.
Gentleman yields back.
In a charged House hearing, Rep. Sydney Kamlager-Dove pressed FBI Director Kash Patel on the Bureau's response to far-right domestic terrorism, citing notorious cases including the Charleston church massacre by Dylan Roof, the Pittsburgh synagogue shooting by Robert Bowers, the El Paso Walmart attack by Patrick Cruces, the Buffalo supermarket shooting by Peyton Gendron, and the school shooting in Colorado by a young white supremacist Kamlager-Dove, underscored that these incidents were national news and rooted in far-right. Patel initially seemed hesitant to recall some incidents, prompting Kamlager-Dove to stress that as FBI director, he should be fully aware of these cases. She contrasted Patel's responses with former FBI Director Christopher Wray's previous acknowledgement that white supremacist violence remains the most lethal form of domestic terrorism in the United States. Kamlager-Dove further questioned whether Patel's approach aligns with evidence-based policy rather than political narratives, particularly those downplaying the threat from the far right. This hearing exposed a central tension in today's national security debate: the conflict between political rhetoric and evidence-based assessments of domestic terrorism. Kamlager-Dove's pointed questioning reflected growing frustration that some leaders in law enforcement appear unwilling to confront the scale of the far-right threat, even as major attacks from Charleston to Buffalo have left devastating marks on communities. The exchange also demonstrated the erosion of institutional credibility when leaders deflect or equivocate about basic facts. While Patel eventually acknowledged that racially motivated crimes are real, his initial hesitancy in recalling cases that shaped national discourse raised questions about priorities and readiness. That moment of uncertainty can be perceived as either lack of preparation or reluctance to confront uncomfortable truths, both damaging in an era when trust in law enforcement is already fragile. Kamlager-Dove's insistence on documenting historical attacks and placing them into the Congressional record was more than symbolism. It was a reminder that evidence and data, not partisan spin, must guide policy decisions. Her focus on the scrubbing of DOJ research about domestic radicalization further highlighted concerns about transparency and whether political influence is skewing national security assessments. The broader consequence of this exchange is clear. Downplaying or politicizing the threat of far-right extremism not only undermines trust, but also jeopardizes public safety. If law enforcement leaders fail to confront this threat with urgency and candor, communities remain vulnerable, and victims' families continue to question whether justice is truly impartial. This hearing was a stark reminder that facts must come before politics when addressing threats to public safety. The lives lost in Charleston, Pittsburgh, El Paso, Buffalo, and countless other attacks demand that leaders acknowledge the truth about far-right extremism and act on it. What do you think? Did Kamlager-Dove's tough questioning expose a deeper problem in the FBI's leadership, or was Patel unfairly targeted? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We want to hear your perspective. And if you believe that public safety depends on transparency and accountability at the highest levels, hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and turn on notifications. Together, we can keep demanding the truth because ignoring extremism is not an option.